On a cold November afternoon in 2002, the city of Chicago seemed to tremble beneath the weight of grey clouds and the relentless hum of life. The Jackson Street subway station was alive with movement, a river of hurried footsteps echoing off tiled walls, the air thick with the scent of wet coats and the distant metallic tang of the tracks. Amid the crowd, a young mother named Laura clung tightly to her daughter's hand, her grip a lifeline in the chaos. Emily, just 7 years old, wore a pink jacket that hung past her wrists, her other hand fiercely cradling a beloved teddy bear missing one button eye, a small, battered companion that had seen her through scraped knees and bedtime stories. They were returning from the hospital where Laura's father lay tethered to machines, his breaths shallow, his future uncertain. Laura's mind was a storm of worry and exhaustion, her thoughts tangled between present duties and a gnawing fear of loss. The subway, with its constant noise and movement, offered no comfort, only a pressing urgency to get home, to find solace in familiar walls. In a single, heart-stopping moment, the fragile thread connecting mother and daughter was severed. A surge in the crowd, a careless shove, and Laura's fingers slipped from Emily's. She spun around, panic flaring in her chest. But the space where Emily had stood was empty. The world seemed to tilt, sound warping and fading as Laura's frantic eyes searched the sea of strangers. She called Emily's name, her voice drowned by the roar of trains and the blur of announcements, her heart pounding a desperate rhythm. On the platform, Laura's gaze fell on Emily's teddy bear, abandoned near the edge, its worn face upturned as if pleading for help. She snatched it up, her hands trembling, and ran along the platform, her eyes darting from face to face, every shadow a threat, every movement a possible clue. She searched every bench, every tunnel, her mind screaming for time to reverse, to claim the moment before her world fractured. The police arrived swiftly after Laura's frantic call. Officers moved through the station, questioning witnesses, reviewing the grainy footage from security cameras. The images were little more than blurs and shadows, indistinct figures swallowed by the constant motion of the station. There was no clear sign of Emily after the moment she let go of her mother's hand. As the hours bled into days, the city seemed to shrink around Laura, the search expanding into a desperate routine. Flyers bearing Emily's bright eyes and shy smile appeared on lampposts, in shop windows, fluttering in the winter wind, a silent chorus of hope and heartbreak. But hope is a stubborn thing. Laura returned to the station every day, her footsteps tracing the same desperate path, her hands clinging to Emily's teddy bear. With each arriving train, she scanned the faces, searching for her daughter's familiar features, her heart leaping with every small, dark-haired child who passed. Each day ended in disappointment, the weight of absence settling heavier on her shoulders as the city grew colder, the nights longer. Elsewhere, in a part of the city where time seemed to move more slowly, an elderly woman named Margaret led a quiet life. Her apartment was small and worn, the wallpaper peeling in places, the air scented with lavender and old books. Margaret had never married, had no children of her own, and spent her days knitting by the window, watching the world go by in fragments. She was accustomed to solitude, her life a gentle rhythm of small comforts. One evening, as dusk crept in and the city's lights flickered on, Margaret ventured into the basement to take out her trash. The building's storage units were dark and cluttered, the air chilly and damp. As she turned to leave, a faint, muffled cry reached her ears. A sound so fragile she almost doubted it was real. But Margaret's heart, attuned to loneliness, recognized the voice of someone in need. She followed the sound, her pulse quickening, until she found a small figure huddled behind a stack of broken furniture. It was Emily. Her cheeks were hollow, her hair tangled, her hands scraped and dirty. She clung to her pink jacket, her eyes wide with fear and exhaustion. Margaret didn't hesitate. She knelt beside Emily, her voice gentle, her touch steady. She wrapped the girl in her own shawl and led her upstairs, where the warmth of her apartment and the promise of safety awaited. Emily was silent, her body trembling, but she allowed Margaret to clean her wounds and offer her a mug of warm milk. The authorities were called, and within hours, Laura received the call she had been praying for. She rushed to the hospital, her heart a wild, aching thing. When she saw Emily, so small, so changed, she moved slowly, afraid that the fragile moment might shatter. She offered Emily the teddy bear, its one-eyed face a symbol of comfort and home. Emily hesitated, then let the bear fall, launching herself into her mother's arms, her sobs breaking the silence, the pain, and the fear. Doctors learned that Emily had been lured away by a stranger, a woman with a kind smile and promises of candy and puppies. She had been held captive in the basement, surviving on stolen food and rainwater. In a moment of inattention, her captor had locked her in a storage room, not realizing that Emily could slip through a broken panel. It was there that Margaret found her, guided by compassion and the refusal to ignore a cry for help. The reunion brought relief and gratitude, but the scars, visible and invisible, remained. Laura could not bear to let Emily out of her sight, her anxiety a constant undertow. Emily, once carefree and bold, became quiet and watchful, her sleep haunted by nightmares, her steps tentative in crowds. But together, mother and daughter began the slow, uncertain journey toward healing. They attended counseling, learned to speak of their fears, and rebuilt their sense of safety one day at a time. Margaret became a fixture in their lives, her kindness a steady light. She visited often, bringing cookies and knitted scarves, her presence a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there are those who choose to act with courage and compassion. Emily grew to trust her, finding comfort in her gentle stories and patient listening. As winter gave way to spring, Emily began to reclaim pieces of her old self. She took up drawing, filling notebooks with colorful images, gardens in bloom, teddy bears with smiling faces, skies streaked with sunlight. Laura watched as her daughter's world expanded, each new picture a small victory over fear. Yet something in Emily had changed forever. The innocence of childhood had been tempered by experience, her laughter edged with caution. But there was also a new strength within her, a quiet resilience that grew with each passing day. She learned that she could survive darkness and find her way back to the light. On the anniversary of Emily's return, Laura organized a small gathering in the park. Friends and neighbors gathered, their faces alight with gratitude. Pink balloons, each bearing a handwritten message of hope, drifted into the sky. Margaret stood at Emily's side, her hand clasped in the girl's, her smile warm and proud. As the sun broke through the clouds, Laura felt a sense of peace, the warmth reaching places in her heart that had long been cold. Emily's questions about the world grew deeper. She wondered why some people choose to hurt others, why bad things happen to good people. Laura answered honestly, acknowledging the darkness, but pointing always to the light. She taught Emily that while pain is real, so is kindness, and that the actions of one person, like Margaret, can change the course of another's life. In the years that followed, Emily grew into a young woman marked by her past, but not defined by it. She became a volunteer, dedicating her time to helping other children find their way home. Each life she touched was a testament to her courage, a small triumph over the fear that once threatened to consume her. Laura found her own healing in service, sharing their story with families in need of hope. She spoke of pain and perseverance, of the power of love to restore what was lost. She did not promise that suffering would disappear, only that it could be transformed by connection and care. Margaret remained a beloved presence, her wisdom and warmth a constant source of comfort. She and Emily spent long afternoons together, knitting scarves and sharing stories. It was Margaret who taught Emily that true heroes are those who step forward when others turn away, who listen for the faintest cry and answer with open arms. The Jackson Street subway station became a place of remembrance. Sometimes, Laura and Emily would walk past, their hands entwined, their hearts united by the memory of what they had endured and overcome. They knew that life could change in an instant, that safety was never guaranteed, but they also knew that love, fierce, unyielding, and true, could carry them through any storm. Their story is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, to the power of hope and the enduring strength of family. It is a story not only of loss, but of rediscovery, of finding light in darkness, of choosing compassion over indifference, of building new beginnings from the fragments of heartbreak. In every city, on every crowded street, there are stories like Laura's and Emily's. Stories of fear and courage, of strangers who become saviors, of families who refuse to let go. Their journey reminds us that even when everything falls apart, there is always a path back to the light, and that the smallest acts of kindness can change the world. If you are moved by this story, subscribe to Golden Love Stories and discover other equally touching and surprising stories.